back, everybody. I'm really delighted to have these experts at the front. So this session is teacher-led research and translation. And we're going to hear from Richard Churches and Paul Watkins first, followed by Glenn. And then we'll have questions at the end. So it's my delight to first introduce Richard, Charlotte, Sharon and Daria, who are going to be talking about teacher-led RCTs.
Well, great, thank you very much, Leah. And it really is, I can't tell you what a wow, sort of a tremendous and exciting experience this is. So many of us have been talking about this type of event for so long. Paul and I were chatting about it in the break. I should confess, actually, before I start, my first of many confessions today is that my doctorate, although I work in education, I have for 30 years, 15 years as a teacher, 15 as a government advisor, my doctorate's in hypnosis, so I'm just going to say sleep. And when the proportion who are highly susceptible wake up, you'll have loved it. I don't know about the others, but I'll do my best. So that's part of who I am. I'm also going to be a great believer in the primacy and recency effect. I'm going to plug my books first, and on the last slide. But there's an interesting story here to this. We're a global education consultancy. We do a lot of research as well. We give away free. We're a charity. And my boss, Tony, gave me a job about 10 years ago to think about learning from medicine and healthcare. If you've read Trends in Neuroscience and Education, their website, make a really interesting point. 150 years ago, medicine was nothing more than quackery, plain nonsense and fads. And then people got together to create a scheme, I think they say, in which medicine could aspire to become a natural science. And so, looking at that, we said, okay, what might it be like in 150 years' time? And so that's led to a number of different things. And the books came about because when we started doing some of the things that we were doing, there weren't textbooks to use. So I wrote Neuroscience for Teachers, Ellie Domitty in Devonshire, into Nottingham Medical School, Ellie at King's College London. They used to be in Susan's lab, Susan Greenfield's lab at Oxford. And also teacher-led research, which is actually experimental research design book. My doctorate was entirely experimental, and we'll talk to you about that during the break. And so we've done out this idea of teacher-led randomised control trials, grounding education of biology and learning, moving to ground those trials in the neuroscience and biological evidence. And a second strand really is looking at the pipeline from bench to bedside, which I used to say at keynotes is broken in education, and then I was corrected by some of the other things. There's never been a pipeline, so it can't be broken. There is no mechanism for lab work like you do to be translated into clinical practice type trials, to then enter teacher training curriculum nationally and globally, and then to be monitored through supervision. I'll leave you with that thought. If you want to hear more about the arguments we make about that, you can pick up this excellent free publication, which is outside. We wrote an article in it called Bridging the Gap Between Evidence in Classroom and Clinical Practice. So by that we mean in the same way that chemotherapy treatment might be developed in a lab, it's ultimately its use is forged on the angle of practice through clinical trials, looking at patients, how they present with symptoms, their case history, etc. That is done by clinical practitioners in the main. So the argument probably here is there's a key challenge, we believe. The work you're doing is absolutely unbelievable. I was talking to my colleagues here who are all serving teachers, by the way. They'll tell you a bit about themselves in their trials. And, often talking to many of you as posters, we as teachers for many years can see an application that you probably never thought of. And that we began to experience that many years ago, the all-parliamentary working group on brain science in the classroom, the Estelle Morris created with Susan Greenfield, where the moment neuroscience and teachers started to talk, interesting things happened. A lot of the famous things when we talk about neuromyths, but there are also some edgy myths I'm going to ask you to be careful of as well. I'm starting to hear in the space, so watch out for those. So similar challenges face the medical professions that aspire to be a natural science grounded in biology. Today, medicine uses biology in the same way that architecture uses physics. I believe that something similar could be done in education. Physics does not tell you how to build an amazing piece of architecture like we're in now, but you cannot build that building against the laws of physics. And that fundamentally might give us a very different touchstone for how we might work together. From your end of the perspective, let's face it, laboratories are not classrooms. And just as the biological experiment is not clinical practice, that doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong. They have to be meshed in any form of applied natural science, if you like. And we need wide replication, I would argue, to control for pupil individual differences. And you will hear and see on the poster some examples of where one of the problems we've had in education for probably about 100 years is this idea that there might be a single universal treatment. Roll up, take my wonder cure. It works everywhere, in every classroom, every pupil. My teachers were interested in replicating the different pupils in different contexts. We'll talk a little bit about that. And testing some of those things which are assumed to work with everybody. We've got a number of replications of retrieval practice, for example, that suggest that, yes, it's a great thing, but it may work in certain situations and conditions, but not so in others. Obviously, there needs to be multiple replication, because our studies are quite small. Then you could argue you need to replicate large trials as well. I would. So, most importantly, in medicine and healthcare, it's serving clinicians the most frequently published studies about clinical practice. In education, few practitioner studies get to journals, and further, those researchers who do design or study pedagogy no longer practice as teachers. An extraordinary phenomenon, you might argue. So, you know this, I don't need to tell you how difficult it is to move between the levels that you guys are interested in this room, from the genetic to the behavioural. And of course, education has very different goals. Where you want to understand the mechanism of relationship, for example, between inhibition and the capacity of working memory and executive control and all those sorts of things, a teacher just wants to know, what can I do with that to be a more efficient teacher? They are in the applied space very strongly. Neuroscience education, of course, and mind-brain education in the US aims to fill these gaps, and it's very exciting to hear the translational work I know that Greg's doing and also Paul's doing. And there is an argument that alongside the clinical teacher trials, I would say, that actually just teaching teachers about the neuroscience better means they could reason clinically between the gaps in that research. So there's also an argument for just teaching the teachers the hard science and getting them to reason clinically. But I do think we need to do some forms of trial in certain areas with certain subjects, and we need to involve the profession, they won't take any notice. Because the other problem we've had is a democratic deficit. Doctors are both the producers and the consumers of research in medicine. Educators are purely the consumers, what experts tell them to do. And it doesn't work. And we need to change it. So the Project Wellcome Trust brought all of that together. So this is called Neuroscience-Informed Teacher-Led Randomised Control Trials. Teachers that have previously designed a randomised control trial were put in a room with teachers with psychology and neuroscience degrees. You'll hear from Daria later, who was a cognitive neuroscientist. They do exist in classrooms, and they have been teachers. Leah was a neuroscientist who went in to be a science teacher. It's a great resource. Where did it come from? I led Closing the Gap Test and Learn for the Department for Education, 11 large-scale randomised control trials. You can read the report. We also taught teachers to do RCTs. You can see the first teacher-led RCT conference there, where we all held each other accountable and defended each other's research. We believe, and if you want to buy another book to read, you can buy this book where we talk about the whole project, how it sought to mobilise future researchers. And I think the next generation of what we're seeking to do is multiple planned replications. Here you see multiple planned replications of literacy approaches and numeracy approaches. But actually imagine a group of the power of a large group of teachers doing multiple planned replications and amalgamating them in meta-analysis, avoiding the problems some of the large-scale trials have had around extraneous variables. So our studies are much more like laboratory conditions. You know about research designs, but I would just like to say most of our teachers have found really innovative ways to do within participants repeated measures designs, and you'll see some of those. So we have 31 schools involved, 19 trials, 4,000 pupils. Interestingly, what the things that teachers chose to use were very different we expected. Lots of replication of retrieval practice, which they found interesting. Testing existing pedagogy where it makes neuroscience sense, like a strategy called Look, Cover, Write, Check, which requires you to hold a spelling in working memory and rehearse it with different parts of, saying it to yourself, phonological loop, visual, spatial, sketch, hand, imagining it. Arguably a good way to rehearse and put things into long-term memory. We've had to teach teachers how to read a poster. So when you go into the big dining room later, you see 8 of the posters. I've got the 1 minute warning, by the way, that's great. So, because I want you to hear from these folks. We did how to read a poster, which will seem pretty obvious to you, but I tell you what, education departments, you wonder what the challenge is. Paul, how many education departments in England are still ethnographic sociological researchers? Pretty much all of them, to be quite frank, with a small number. So there's a huge methodological challenge. There are not people like you who understand experiments in use of those departments, sadly. So hopefully there will be in years to come. You will notice that our posters are very detailed on research design, type of randomisation, because we're also trying to explain the method. So we try not to leave too many gaps. So at the break, I'm very happy to talk about any of those posters. I'm going to introduce Charlotte and Sharon. They'll say a bit more about you, but just for the last sort of 10 seconds, if you're from another country, you might be unaware of the strategy that the coalition government about 6-7 years ago brought in called teaching schools. Teaching schools seek to model the teaching hospital. My wife actually works in a hospital. Actually, I live in a tiny flat now, by the way, because we had to sell the house to pay for it all. But she talks about the first day she turned up at the teaching hospital and a cardiologist walked off the ward to talk about the randomised control trial she had got funding to scale up. A seamless integration of clinical practice, research and the training of the next generation. And that, I think, is a very inspiring message that we can begin to, but it will need you doing your laboratory, moving as close as you can to the classroom, helping teachers to help you to do the next translation research for some of these challenges to be overcome. So, I'll leave Charlotte and Sharon to talk about themselves, and then Dara will finish off, and then we'll take some questions. Wait, I forgot to say again.
Okay, good morning everyone. As Richard said, I'm Sharon Baker, and this is my colleague Charlotte Hindley, and so we work in 2 schools in Wigan, so 2 different schools, and I'm deputy head at Westfield Community School and Charlotte's assistant head at Flatbridge School. And together, those 2 schools form the Westbridge Teaching School Alliance. It's probably worth saying that the schools serve seasonally deprived areas of Wigan, my school being the most deprived intake in the whole of Wigan. And that's quite significant in how we actually designed the research and what we were interested in pursuing. As Richard mentioned, we were involved previously with the Closing the Gap research, but one of the key things that you might not know, teaching schools have to deliver on some significant strands. So we support the schools through national leaders, through specialist teachers, but we were given the remit. One of the things that we had to do, and it is a strand specifically, it says research. So when we became a teaching school 3 years ago, for us, that presented the most interesting challenge. We didn't actually know what that was, or what we should do, or what that meant. So at first we thought, right, well, let's make getting our hands on as much research and reading it, and kind of, didn't really do it for us, because we didn't really see what the implications were in the classroom. But through being involved with the National Closing the Gap, and actually somebody telling us how you do a randomised control trial, and having to carry it out exactly to the prescription that was sent to us, it then gave us the impetus to think, right, actually, there are things that interest us in school that we could actually design our own randomised control trial. So, as it was, 3 years ago, there was a new national curriculum, and the new national curriculum involves, you may know this, may not, a list of spellings, and it has this list of words that children are required to know and be able to spell. And these words are called exception words. When you're in years 5 and 6, and you're 10 and 11, there are close to 90 words that you've got to be able to spell. They're not part of spelling patterns. So it's to do with your memory. You're going to have to just learn them and memorise them. Now for Charlotte and I, that is quite a challenge in the area that we're in, because some of the words have absolutely no relevance to our children. We teach in Wigan, one of the words is yacht. Children know yacht. It's just not in the context of what they know. So that presented a challenge, because we want education to be relevant, but we have a national curriculum with requirements that are quite difficult for us. So what we decided to do was that our first randomised control trial would be around the fact that we had a lot of discussion in school that one of the ways that we teach these sets of words that have no relevance, so words like pronunciation, mischievous, yacht, etc., etc., going to teach that the traditional way, I'm sure you've probably all done this, you get spelling tests, you give the words, children learn them, and they get tested each week. We've come to the conclusion that there's a lot of discussion going on in school, what was the point? Because 5 weeks later, we can't remember that spelling. Is there any word that must keep wasting time on a spelling test? And with the power of doing the closing the gap research, we thought actually, we can actually test this out, we can actually do a trial. So we designed a between subject randomised control trial to see whether if we gave children banks of 10 words and we taught them through the same strategies, one being the look, cover, right check that Rich mentioned, but one group of children every week were told they were going to be tested on those words and the other group weren't. After 8 weeks, after learning 80 words, we checked out whether you have a greater chance of retaining more of the words because you've been tested continuously in the process compared to not. We believed there would be very little difference between them, and we were wrong. If you're tested every week, your gain score is much greater, and it was a significant score. So that was our original piece that actually we went, that's really interesting. So that started us on a little bit of a mission to do with spelling. So then we were invited by the Wellcome Trust, because we've done a randomised control trial, to move further into designing another randomised control trial. And again, spelling work, we then had the pleasure of reading books that Richard has written, and it really upped our game in terms of what we understood in terms of neuroscience, and we designed a second trial.
Okay, so obviously after reading Richard's books, we were keen to build on our previous research, and one aspect of the treatment practice that really interested us in particular was the use of multiple choice testing as a learning event. We felt it really linked directly with our previous trial that was about weekly spelling tests as well. So our first step was to design our project, so we decided to go for within participant design so that we could compare different levels of the same variable. We were quite lucky to a certain extent because we've got two quite large primary schools. We were able to have a reasonable sample size of 120 pupils, whilst because Sharon and I were in schools all the time, maintaining that control over the implementation. So we weren't worried about whether it was being done how we wanted it to be done. All the children undertook a pre-test at the beginning of the project, which was 30 words taken from the spelling list that Sharon mentioned, split into 3 sets of 10. Okay? And then we randomly allocated all our 120 pupils into 3 groups that would experience each of these 3 conditions at a different time, so in different orders. The first condition was our control group, okay? And they didn't have any multiple choice testing at all, and they just followed normal classroom practice, which is the look, cover, right check method that both people have already referred to. The children look at the spelling, cover it up, they write it from memory, and then they check whether it's right, and they just repeat that process. Our intervention A, so our second level, was to introduce multiple choice testing. What we did then, instead of using our normal classroom practice, we had some worksheets that we developed where each of these spellers was presented 3 different ways to the children. So, for example, accommodation might have 1 C, 2 M's, 2 C's, 1 M, or 2 C's and 2 M's. So the children had to decide which one they felt was the most appropriate spelling. And our final one in section B was to use our control method, our genuine teaching, combined with the multiple choice testing, so they were getting the additional multiple choice testing in that way. After the children then experienced each of those different conditions, they completed a post-test based on the 10 words they've learned on each condition, which enabled us to look at the gain scores in each situation. Our analysis showed, as you can see in the graph, that each condition did have a small but significant effect on the children's ability to retrieve the spellings. A third separate analysis, though, showed that when we compared intervention B, which was normal classroom practice combined with multiple choice testing, children had significantly better progress rates. Okay? Compared with the control, it was 0.16 effect size, but compared with just multiple choice testing on its own, it was the effect size of 0.51. And as you can see from our p-values, it showed that that wasn't due to chance, it was due to what had been put in place for the children. As an addition to that, we then decided to just ask the children what they thought, because obviously in a primary school setting, half the battle is the children wanting to learn in that particular way. So we asked the children to just choose and vote which one of the methods they preferred. And interestingly, 47% preferred multiple choice testing, despite on its own it not really having as significant effect on their progress. So from a teaching point of view, that shows us that it might practice, but despite it being a really successful retrieval process, it's not going to be the be-all and end-all for us, and it shouldn't replace what policy practice is already going on.
So, the impact then from what we had initially planned, we actually at the same time, because we were very interested in this idea of multiple choice testing, and we had the spelling work going on, we also ran another study at the same time, and we applied it again because for us, we have designed research about things that are very relevant to our teachers. So another big demand on children is that by the time that they reach the end of year 4, they should know all the multiplication tables to 12 times 12, and potentially that is going to be nationally tested. So we had that very much on the agenda, so we decided to run another trial alongside it to see whether multiple choice would work with learning multiplication tables. So for example, we would give them a multiplication 7 times 8, and there would be 3 answers for them to choose from to see whether that would work as well, in addition to doing the same sort of trial, what was our current time for classroom practice, this is an intervention and running both together. And again, because we were in 2 large schools, this trial had about 200 children in it. So interestingly, it came up with very similar outcomes. If we did multiple choice testing below, it had a negative impact. And we've thought about that on both of them, and I think it's because there is nothing for children to infer from. So it's just on its own, that is not a good technique in this context. Whereas if they do it alongside, the technique itself has some worth, if they do it alongside the classroom practice that we have, we get the most gain out of it, and the children like it. So we that wasn't necessarily what we expected, but that's actually changed practice in school on the basis of what we do. So just to say, so I've got 1 minute you held up at me, the outcomes for us in school is we've continued to design research that interests us. We're in very deprived areas, so one of the big things is in our early years is the role of parents. So we've got research going on, we've proved about the impact of parents working alongside their children, but also giving them some training as to what to do. So we've got research going on around that. What we feel like this process has done for us is it's empowered us to have the belief we can actually, with support, and I have to emphasise that, because that's the gap there. We couldn't do any of this if we didn't have the support of Richard at the end of the phone or an email to say, right, what statistical wizard should we be using to prove that this isn't just by chance, and what does that mean? We can't do that, but we know about perhaps how design to be really relevant to a teacher and what they're interested in and what they want to know. So basically, we're going to carry on doing similar research in the future, and hopefully we think we've got some ideas to listen to all of you over the last few days. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm also a teacher living in secondary school, so I'm a deputy head of science in a large inner city school in Birmingham. It is an all-girls school and also got quite varied intake, but it is in the city, so a lot of our students are also from quite a deprived background. So being obviously secondary school, we've got GCSEs and A-levels, and we needed an intervention that is quite quick. So we wanted to do something that wouldn't take a lot of time, that we could do quickly, and that would be easy for teachers. So one of the things that we came across in Richard's book was practice testing. So there's a large meta-analysis episode that found that having a low-stakes test before an end-of-unit test seemed to improve practice in an end-of-unit test. So practice testing might help with retrieval processes and it might lead to better recall. So currently there's very little research that has examined this kind of retrieval practice or practice testing at school level and outside the lab. And for science, it sounded like a really useful tool. So recently there have been huge changes in the science curriculum, and there's a much bigger breadth and depth of the course at Key Stage 4 for GCSE. And there are a lot of questions that are more about application. Further, there's no coursework anymore in science, so the students can't rely on that to help not boost their grades, so they're purely relying on exams, which are really difficult as well. So my trial design, originally I did not have more classes, but I had 4 year 10 classes that were matched on ability, and then we randomised the classes into 2 strands. So either they had, so first of all, the within subjects design, so counterbalance. So the first condition was the control condition, which was just having a revision lesson at the end of the unit they were being taught, followed by the end of unit test. The intervention condition was having a revision lesson which involved having a practice test during the lesson. So they'd just be given a practice test that they do, and then they'd mark it themselves with feedback from the teacher. So the practice test was designed to mimic what we would expect to see in an end of unit test. So it's 35 minutes, composed of kind of multiple choice questions and short answer questions, and this was based on the review that I observed. That seems to be the most effective form of practice testing, and it was administered 1 lesson before the real end of year test. Because of timetabling, that did vary, because the lesson before could have been 1 or 2 days before the test itself. So this is, I have got more data coming for this study, but this is a preliminary analysis at the moment. So at the moment, overall, we found that there was no statistically significant difference in performance in the end of unit test, followed by a practice, whether it had a practice test before it, or whether it just had a standard revision lesson. So having a practice test before didn't seem to have an effect overall. However, I did want to look at specific groups of pupils as well. So first of all, in schools, we look at these groups first of all, so SEN, special educational needs, versus no special educational needs, pupil premium, high priority, middle priority, and low priority pupils. And all of these analyses showed no significant difference, i.e. these groups didn't seem to perform better with a practice test or without a practice test. What I then did was I looked a little bit further, and I found some quite interesting results in that pupils who performed poorly without a practice test, so who didn't do very well at the end of the unit test, following just a standard revision lesson, did significantly better once they had a practice test. So it seemed to benefit that group of pupils. However, there was also the reverse, that for some reason pupils who actually did quite well in the control condition, which is the standard practice, they did well in that test, that with just a revision, did actually worse when they had a pre-test. So 2 kind of opposite effects. And we don't really know why, so I'm thinking possibly the pre-test or the practice test might affect confidence or motivation. So some people might feel more motivated by it to revise, or some people might feel less motivated. And the one thing I just want to mention, a few things as a teacher, is that there are some barriers to kind of being a teacher and conducting research. I do come from a research background, so it's been quite different conducting research as a teacher. So first of all, practicalities, so the fact that there's a lot of staff turnover. I had the whole timetable actually changed 3 times in my department, and we had 20 teachers, so it was quite complex. Time pressures, we have huge data deadlines, GCSE blocks coming up. It means some teaching could be rushed, people try and squeeze lessons, so it might affect the quality of the teaching, which basically results in difficulty in controlling experience variables. Because of these things. And I think maybe as a result of in the group of people doing these trials, there seems to be less doing trials in secondary schools, because maybe because of some of these issues. But there are obviously huge benefits, because being a teacher, you kind of understand the needs of the pupils and staff at the school, the curriculum, and the practicalities, and you understand what their needs are. And I think having been part of this has led to more careful consideration of interventions within my school as well. And we have looked at sub-group analyses as well. So I think my time is going to be up, but I'm just going to quickly say that for me, my next steps are basically to just consider alternative methods of practice testing. I'm going to have more data very soon, and possibly I'd like to replicate it as well. Thank you.
about what are we actually doing. So we're not doing the standard randomised control trial that's been done in education. These are small-scale laboratory studies. The control condition is a controlled condition. It is a defined piece of existing best practice you compare to a new treatment like a surgeon would do. So what's next? Well, we've got more trials to analyse. One of our trials has parallel replication with 900 pupils in it, in 2 schools in Lincolnshire, looking at distributed practice. We're going to do a meta-analysis across the findings, which will give us an overall effect size for neuroscience-informed pedagogy, but also allow us to look at some subtle differences. I say overall, retrieval practice is a positive, significant effect, but actually when you look at the subtle variations, you begin to think about the way in which different children might be treated when they present with different conditions, etc., using a medical analogy. What do we do at the moment? Well, in March, we launched randomised control trials with the Varkey Foundation and 24 of their teacher ambassadors, people that have been in the top 50, including Andrew, who won the Teacher Prize in England. Incredibly excited to do that. And that's meant in one go, we've now got teacher-led randomised control trials across the world, in numerous places that I always forget to mention. And I'm actually going to do shorter keynotes from now on, because when I do long ones, the book sales go down because people think they know what's in them. So it's been great to be a chance to do a short one and mention the books at the end. If you want to get in touch, please do. Evidence That Counts is a publication that's free to download. We do public research for free globally. It was the first 12 teacher-led randomised control trials. You can see 8 of the current neuroscience-informed posters in the large dining room there, and we'll be happy to talk about what's there with you. So thank you very much.
My head's spinning. My slides, here we go. So I want to imagine for a moment, you attending a school, secondary school, maybe even a primary school, maybe your children as well, where 100% of the teachers, every single one, and school leader, has training and ongoing professional development every year at the school in the field of mind-brain education science, is how we define it in the United States. So many educational neuroscience in that same space. Imagine that. Every one of your teachers, regardless if you're walking from English to maths, those teachers are using research to inform their practice. Well, I represent one of those schools in the world. It's actually the only school in the United States currently that has a mind-brain education science research center based in it. We work with children from 2 years old to 18 years old. And I have a privilege every day, like the people on the panel. I'm actually a teacher. It's the best part of my day, right? Love working with adults, but in the end, I teach history. 5th period, it's the period after lunch, the worst period to teach ever, if you've ever done it. I'm also, though, the director of the Center for Transformative Teaching and Learning at the school, where I co-authored a book with Dr. Ian Keller around this work and our translation experience. The way our school became research-informed started about 11 years ago with this question. And I hope every school in the world actually asks itself this question. What is the next frontier to create exceptionally strong teachers in front of students? Now, you can imagine that if we stopped the presentation here, you guys would have 20 different opinions, right? But in doing this work, we actually did a less than empirical, self-reporting survey of our faculty. And we asked them, how many had any exposure to the research in the science of learning, on the learning brain? Now, this is a total setup. I can imagine you know the answer. But in the spirit of using the science of learning to teach the science of learning, something Paul mentioned yesterday, I'm going to actually ask you to stand. There's been no movement yet in this space. And as a teacher, that is absolutely unacceptable. So if you think it's 20%, okay, be brave, be bold, stand up. Come on. Thank you very much. Got movement. Excellent. Sit down. If you think it's B, 40%. Thank you. Just play along. If you think it's C, 60% of our teachers, when we did this survey, had at least 30 hours of exposure to books, conferences in this space. Anybody willing to stand up? No. They're like, dare go to 80%? 80% of our teachers, an awesome number. Well, the absolute number is 20%, right? Now, it's interesting, we do this snapshot survey around the world when we work with schools, and this number actually holds up, regardless of school setting. So there's an 80% gap And I'm going to tell you one absolute truth in education. And I don't think anybody in this room can debate it. I'm willing to, but I'm getting on a plane late tonight, so I'm getting out of here quickly. The only truth I know of in education is that every day, every kid will bring his or her brain to every class. Right? I mean, we're not going to contest that. Now the question is, what does the teacher need to know? What does the student need to know to maximize the potential of the organ of learning? But we know this. So our school decided, let's explore this thing called mind-brain education science. I gotta be honest with you, we had no clue what we were doing. Right? It was a young field in our country, this transdisciplinary field. We were trying to figure out, could we leverage research that was out there to make ourselves better at our craft? Now, the mistake we made, maybe, and this should have stopped us literally in our tracks, is we read John Brewer's article, The Bridge Too Far. Now, if you read that article, you probably move on to your next school initiative, right? That the idea of connecting neuroscience to classroom practice, or educational neuroscience to classroom practice, is just impossible. And I would like to say, I think we're standing here today, and I brought some resources to show you how we've translated this work, that it is possible. And we're doing no harm trying new things. And it's been really exciting for our faculty. The problem is we are being inundated in the United States and throughout the world with a lot of language. A lot of neuro myths persist, and Paul's work has been really helpful for us in this space. And it's a multi-million-dollar industry, this brain-based learning industry. And teachers are really susceptible to it. We believe things when it has a big picture of a brain and the word brain on it. So here was our approach as a school. Imagine this. Our school said we're going to train 100% of our faculty in a 3-day training, which we continually do when you're hired at our school. And then every year, as a community of teachers, we're going to continue to look at research and apply it to our practice. Not actually do research where I think is awesome, I want to steal everything we've just heard, but what's already out there that we should be looking at to inform our practice. Now the problem in schools is this, right? We had a lot of innovators and early adopters, right? Teachers who are ready to run. Give me the research, let me see how it works in my context with my kids, and I'll report back. But the question is, we wanted to get to 100%. And here we know this exists. Professional development and professional growth at schools is like a death march for many of us, right? It's poorly delivered, it's a lot of direct instruction, it's not necessarily applicable to the classroom. Teachers don't know what to do with it. Now, thankfully, there's great research actually. We've looked at your country a lot, from the Teacher Development Trust, David Weston's work, and others, who have really given us good guidance on what makes up great professional development. And we set as our bar, the first thing around professional growth in this space is try something new with the research, and then report back. Now that might seem a little too simplistic for you guys as researchers, but we want teachers to try something new. Evaluate it, see if it works for one kid, all kids, half the population of students, and then see what happens next. So we've also changed our PD. This is one of the coolest pictures we've been at our school. We ordered from Amazon, pretty cool, 100 sheep's brains. Prime delivers it in 2 days. Unbelievable. And we had our faculty, one thought on novelty, walk into a professional development session, and this is what they found, sheep's brains. Now you might ask, what the heck are we using sheep's brains for? Well, we wanted to look at this concept of, could we introduce a low level of neuroanatomy to our teachers through the sheep's brain dissection as they think about the student learner? Is there just enough neuroanatomy that every teacher should know? And the argument is we make is yes. We also believe there has to be some common language. You might want to play along here a little. Language is important, as I think it was mentioned yesterday twice. So we're really talking about the space of mind-brain education science. We very much run from this idea of trying to be a research-based school. I think teachers are both artists and scientists. If you say you're research-based, 100% research-based, which I think is nearly impossible, you're taking the art away of teaching, the highly relational elements of teaching. We know learning styles, we're in that space too, trying to debunk it, though ironically we teach more teachers about learning styles, and they seem to keep falling into the same traps. We talk a lot about learning preferences. Labels are paralyzing moments in education for students. We talk a lot about observable phenomena, what can we actually see. And then we talk a lot of different ways about words in space, memory, attention, engagement, you can imagine, executive function. We try to really elicit a common vocabulary amongst our faculty. It's also really critical to have a framework and a pathway to get better at this. So imagine your teachers or your school, or your children's school, where most of the teacher population will be starting at the novice level. But imagine they have a pathway to grow over years and time in the space of mind, brain, education science. Things like this keep teachers in the profession. And I don't know if you're having the same problem that we are in the States, attracting, retaining, and developing the best and the brightest to stay in the classroom is amazingly hard in our country. So here's our journey. In 2007, we started training our faculty. Don't want to worry about everything else, but it's been a great journey. And we focus on three things. We focus on teacher mindset, teacher knowledge, and teacher skills. So, mindset. I want to talk about 3 or 4 things. First of all, there are 2 learning brains in every school, and I think one is often forgotten about. The adult brain is a learning brain. You go into teaching, hopefully, to become better at your craft. So imagine teachers and students learning side by side in this space. Exciting stuff. We also believe really strongly, and I want you to take a moment to do this. I gave you a little pamphlet here. Where are you at this moment on what is the blob tree? We talk a lot about emotion and cognition at our school. It's probably the one thing I've learned most about teaching and learning. Teaching is an emotional profession. It's highly relational. I don't think I knew that for the first decade of my teaching. I taught history, they learn it. If they have emotional baggage, they have to figure it out. That's not my job. But boy, when I start thinking about the emotions of my kids, everything changes. So for a second, look on the blob tree. Where are you emotionally? You've been here a day and a half. How are you feeling? Your cognitive load might be done, right? But look on the blob tree right here. We do this as a formative assessment or a pre-activity with our students. Fill yourself out. And you know what we have to help you do? Turn to a neighbor and tell them where you are on the blob tree. You got 30 seconds to do this, so let's go. Where are you on the blob tree? We also want to be really deliberate about something. In the United States, when we started this work in 2007, when we started talking about the learning brain, culturally, at least in the Washington, D.C. area where I am, it was construed as only being good for the weak kid, the learning challenged, the learning vulnerable, the learning disabled. What would the highest achieving student who's not sleeping, high levels of anxiety, might be taking the hardest course load, how could he or she benefit from research on the learning brain, become a more efficient, confident, independent student? So we really hope as you think about your work, you're really thinking about it across the diverse students that exist in all our schools. Now to prove this to our student teachers, on the second page of our little pamphlet here, again, highly interactive, I'm on my teacher mode here, right? What we do is there's this chart that looks like this. And could you for a moment, just play along for a second, I want you to plot where you currently are from low to high on each of these categories around demands on the learning brain. So if you're on attention, or memory, or receptive or expressive language, which you're receiving a lot of language today, just plot the dots and then connect the lines. Play along, come on, I need you on this one. You plot your dots quickly and connect the lines. Because through this activity, we were trying to show our faculty, and this work's inspired by actually Todd Rose, a conversation we had with Todd Rose years ago. that all brains are different, that students bring different strengths and weaknesses, and that if you don't think about multiple modality instruction, which we know is supported by research, multiple sensory instruction, then not every kid's going to find success in a given class. Now, again, if you need this, I can give it to you. Let me just show you what it looked like when we did it with our students. Let's see if I can do this here. So I'm going to show you on the board data we collected, not empirical, much below your scientific standards, I get it. But look at this when we did this with our students. What we were trying to show to our teachers collecting this data is that there's no average in our student population. And we have to teach not only to the middle, but to the edges. And what does that mean in terms of instructional decision or instructional design? Again, using research that's already out there to think about student learning. Probably the most important and transformative element of neuroscience that has been for our faculty is the concept of neuroplasticity. If a teacher does not believe in the ability for a student's brain to change, not the same pace, not the same level, then they really should get out of teaching, is what I've said to our colleagues, right? I mean, we have to believe in our kids. We have to believe in the science of brain transformation. So we talked a little about mindset, we'll talk about knowledge quickly. We approach it a little differently. We said, what research is already out there? What do we call ready-made research? And a lot of these names, some of them are in the space here, a lot of these names should be familiar. What research should we be looking at as a faculty to inform our work? We know it's not apples to apples, right? Projects done in the UK might not work in Washington, D.C., all right? I'm sure there's a political joke there somewhere. But we really stuck into this bucket, and the teachers really like this bucket. We certainly have moved on out of there. We've done original research studies with our faculty, with university, and our teachers really love doing action research and what Dylan William calls discipline inquiry. And we've also shared with them other grants and research coming out of Rob Coe's work at the University of Durham. Our faculty hate seeing the Ebbinghaus curve and the forgetting curve. It depresses them. I gotta be honest with you. The idea that once they teach something, kids are immediately starting to forget it. Well, what strategies from research, from Yana, who was talking yesterday, and Megan, might be usable in the classroom? So we've established a center to try to bridge this gap. And a couple of things we've done here is how do we take teachers, a group of teachers, a whole faculty, a school, a district, and even change national policy? Well, we sort of have 10 sort of go-to ideas. First and foremost, teachers must be allowed and encouraged to iterate over time. Teachers have to be allowed to try things, succeed, fail, and try again. That culture does not exist enough in our country. This has been mentioned before, but there's no magic boxes. It was just mentioned by Richard, right? There's no one-size-fits-all model. One piece of research is going to work for every kid, every time. It just doesn't exist. It's the playfulness of education, which I enjoy. The area, though, that we really like is this: how do we produce high-quality research-to-practice translation tools that use the science of learning to teach the science of learning? So I've given you one. I brought a couple of copies of our publication, so if you guys want to steal those at the end, more than welcome to. On the outside of some of the aisles, and I'll let you fight over them, I brought 30 of our card decks. These are inspired a little by Paul's work on neuromyths, but we were trying to figure a way, I don't know how to pass them out, but I only have 30, so you guys can wrestle about them. We were trying to figure a playful way to have teachers look at education research and evaluate it if it's true, if it's not true, or there's no research out there yet. So again, they're around. I didn't bring enough because I couldn't get them all in my suitcase. The game changer for us, though, is this placemat that you all have and that I've given you. Our teachers asked us, how can you take research and package it in a way that's usable, in a way that I can see it every day? So the placemat you have that we've given you, and on the back is the meta studies that we use to inform that placemat and what made it on the placemat. I know you guys would love to debate some of the things on it. I welcome it after my plane takes off. But these are tools and resources. If you really want your research to get into the classroom, you have to make it usable. And that's the space we lie in. Everyday teachers try to think about what the research you're doing might do to inform our teachers. The other thing is we also teach teachers how to do needs assessments in their classrooms. What are the needs? And we have an example in the pamphlet I gave you. What are some goals? And which strategies at the right time might you use? Now everybody needs a Jenny Weasley, right? We have our own head of research, inspired by the heads of research that exist. Guys like Alex Quigley, a big fan of, if you don't know him, up at Huntington Research Schools, I think it's north there. We have a lot of low-hanging fruit that we go after right away. And our teachers have really, look at all this categories of work. And our teachers have played in these spaces, taking ready-made research and think about it in their context in their kids. We work collaboratively, we have a pathway. We link academic research, we love playing with researchers, and we let the students in on the big conversations. Imagine students talking about themselves as learners in your professional learning communities. They are the end users. They are the ultimate consumers of this research that they do, or the research we do. And we have great partnerships. Finally, I want to let you know, I love ice cream, all right? And what I'm trying to share here is that in the United States, certainly, and I think it's over here as well, partly because of the leadership of the Wellcome Trust, teachers want this research. They want to better serve their students. They're lining up in many ways to figure out ways to get access to it. We cannot meet the human demand. We've been around the world. It's been a fabulous journey. But we've been challenged in our next frontier, and I gave you a little flyer for it, just to let you know where we're going. And I know others in the room are playing in this space as well. How do you take your great printed materials? How do you create and flex your in-person programming? This is from our summer academy, where we, again, in the spirit of dissecting sheep's brains, and leverage it through technology. So we're building something called NeuroTeach Global, which will deliver to teachers in 5 to 7 minute micro-learning experiences, ready-made NDE research. They will get immediate quizzing on it, they will have to upload artifacts, and it will be a pathway to be certified in NDE through us. So we're really excited about it. Probably a lot of your research would help us to inform it, so I might find you along the way. But this is our work. And finally, if there's ever a doubt why we are in this space and why Wellcome has brought all these different players into this space, never lose sight of who we're doing it for. And it's for students. At any age, deserve a teacher who knows how his or her brain learns, works, and thrives. So thank you very much for letting me show off this today.
Wow, thank you very much, Panel. That was fantastic. Do we have any questions?
Thanks, that was all really interesting. I think I have a question for Richard and the other teachers about, so I really like this idea of taking the clinical research model and trying to lift educational research to a similar sort of level, but it strikes me that there are some key bits of infrastructure that don't yet exist. So for example, clinical trials units provide the design and statistical support, which is often not clinicians, those are trialists rather than clinicians. And then a sort of equivalent to the clinical academic career structure and funding and time to allow teachers to do that alongside their practice. And then some kind of equivalent to NICE, I guess, for educational excellence, as in some form of accreditation or approval system for research. Are there moves towards creating that type of infrastructure to make that vision possible of raising educational research to the level of biomedical research?
You're right, there's none of that. Not in any noticeable form. I suppose the closest endeavour has been the work of the Education Endowment Foundation, but really they're testing existing treatments designed by people that no longer practice, which is match funded. So if you've got an intervention, you want to see if it works, you can pay money to EAF, who then match fund it. So it's a different sort of space. Yeah, I mean, it's really striking. I'm going to just talk about my wife's experience. She's a hospital physiotherapist, the type of degree she did, nesting 1,000 hours of clinical practice with, you're going to learn the biology piece and the clinical research piece, and you go and use it. You're supervised by a better person, that's supervised by supervisors, supervisors. All of those sit within a framework in which a piece of research could enter the world of clinical practice in a robust way. That's not there. I guess the philosophy I've taken, I've been seeing what the ladies just add a bit in, but the philosophy I've taken is, when we look at the history of science, Faraday was just not trained. He was an interested laboratory assistant. I mean, Paul's got some great stories about Darwin as well. There's just a hard science piece to do. I think my view is, if 10% of all teachers in England did a reasonably well-designed trial, we'd have the answers to 40,000 really important research questions. So it's a very bottom-up philosophy, but at some point we're going to need to draw things together so that people who are associated hold each other to account in terms of clinical practice, and that is something that we're currently missing. So I'm just training people and seeing what they do at the moment. The ladies' view is.
I think because Richard facilitated training for us to be able to actually do, to even come up with the initial piece of research. So we will really on a steep learning curve of how to design a piece of research, and it really made us have to think very hard. It's completely out there, anything we've done before. But that initial training, we were confident that we could do what we did. Beyond that, we would need further training. As I said, without the support of somebody who knows how to analyse precisely, because we wouldn't be confident to stand in front of you and present any of this unless we felt like somebody who actually knew a little bit more than a lot more than we do, and actually looked at it and considered it. So that's where we're at, but that doesn't exist for the majority of teachers. We're incredibly privileged to be a part of this, but it's not there.
I would say that the teachers do their designs, and we do sign them off internally as a sort of internal ethics committee, and there's some peer review and things like that. But the key step we made was to invest some time in writing Excel spreadsheets of all the tests you've seen. We even got one to do repeated measures ANOVA with planned comparisons. We have one to do ANOVA with pre-test scores of the covariant. The teacher can just drop their scores in, answer some questions, and they get the effect size at the end. It's about 100 times faster than SPSS, which doesn't always give you the right effect size anyway. So that has been an enormous enabling feature. And then we've got people like Daria involved as well, who actually have a background in clinical experimental research too. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I would be really interested if there was a position like that, personally. I don't know many teachers who would be necessarily, but I think there's definitely room for that, and I'd be really happy to see that happen. But at the moment, it just isn't.
Thank you. I have a question about randomized control trials. How do you deal with the potential inequality in final testing if you have treatments that actually enable some students out of the cohort to perform better in the end, but others do not?
So you're talking about just equity of opportunity of being in
Yes.
control. Okay, so all of our trials take the same view as surgeons take in their trials. So we wouldn't randomly allocate half of you to having your appendix out and half of you to not having your appendix out. Because you know what will happen. Most of you will die, some will survive just because of your body's strength. I know that. So in surgery, surgeons will look at existing treatment, which is good practice, compared to what the school believes is a tweak that will be better. So all of our results are existing knowledge of what actually works compared to the new treatment. So in those cases, no one is actually being removed from something the school would have done that they believed previously to be best practice. But through informed research evidence, they believe there might be worse solutions to something else.
But in the end, you are introducing a relative disadvantage to those students who receive only standard treatment.
So that's inevitable, and so I suppose the ethical challenge to that is, if you're interested in this debate, actually, there's a great book that's a Cabinet Office paper called Test and Adapt, which Ben Goldacre was involved in for the Cabinet Office. It really makes the case, I think, very strongly that are we going to carry on guessing in education about learning outcomes and how ethical it is to do that? I think if medicine and healthcare had decided to do that 20, 30 years ago, I certainly wouldn't be alive. I know that for a fact. The treatment I had for meningitis saved my life as a result of all sorts of interesting research and also a lot of cancer therapies. So I think actually there is an ethical priority to do some sort of research. but it has to be the right type of research. So that would be my. And how do the teachers feel about the ethics of experimenting on your children?
Well, we didn't try anything that we felt was, we were trying some mad thing. We were trying something that was out there, there was already research out there, you know, we'd be very careful to select things that we think could make a difference. We've been surprised sometimes that they don't, but we've also, had the children have experienced, we designed it so they got, each child experienced 3 conditions, so nobody didn't get, if there was a little fix out there that we were missing, all the children were going to experience it at some point. And also we didn't design the trial to go on for a long period, so if we were doing something that would have a negative impact, it wasn't going to go on for an extended piece of time. None of our trial went on for longer than half a term, so we were trying to work that as well, to make sure we weren't doing anything that would harm children at all.
Yeah, within participant piece measures designs are very popular. We've done 140 teacher-led randomised control trials, and over 50% of them have been within participant designs of some form.
I think there's also the danger of schools introducing, when they introduce interventions, they tend to just introduce it for everyone without necessarily testing it. And I found that in my school, for example, they introduced reciprocal reading, and I went and did a literature for it, and I didn't find very much for secondary schools. And one of the students who was doing masters did actually go on to do a small randomised control trial and didn't find an effect, but it's sort of still carried on as a policy. So I think it's important that we do these randomised control trials, because actually sometimes risk introducing policies as a whole, which might have a big
For a long time, as a profession, we get told a lot of things that we should be doing. Strategies get introduced on a national level. We're told that that's the best strategy. Without a lot of research evidence behind it, but we're told that that's what we need to do, and often our profession go along with it. And I think that's been a shift in the last 3 years. We've stopped going along with things and given a little bit more ownership to actually check out whether it's the right thing to do based on our professional knowledge, but we certainly never try anything professionally that we didn't believe was ultimately going to benefit a child. That's not what we're doing.
Thanks. I had one question, and I wanted your thoughts on a possible suggestion or limit that sort of every place related to teacher evaluation that might fit into both of these together. But for mine, the main question I would have is that what do teachers do, or what happens when you present evidence that contradicts their belief systems, and how do you deal with that? And then the thought, Richard, for your group, e-portfolios are really coming into it's quite fashionable right now in the States. And one of the big reasons, looking at this e-portfolios for teachers, is a documentation over time. And one of the adaptations that's happened from North America is using those and actually giving even more points to teachers who actually do research-based methods and sort of prizing this different kind of a model of a teacher practitioner / researcher within the model. And so having the evidence in our portfolios open to critique is one of the bigger ways teachers in Latin America are gaining points as far as their general evaluations. So instead of evaluating a teacher on how well their students do, it's actually looking at what the teacher has actually done to improve their knowledge. And in this way, they actually are documenting, so you know what they do in middle school and other schools is saying, if you've taken these types of courses, for example, that's terrific, but has it benefited, damaged, or not changed your practice? Because to know is not enough. What have they done with that? And has it become usable knowledge? And so using this tool of e-portfolios, I just would like to get your take on that. Do you see that there might be a benefit in, if we're talking about really shifting the ways we value things in education, not just for numbers, not just for experiential understanding of things, but can you measure that any of these things is making a difference within the classroom? What do you think about that? Or do you have other tools that you would say would be a good way then to sort of put our finger on the pulse and watch how we move this envelope? Have we changed anything by doing these interventions?
I'll start a couple things. First of all, we have the 10% challenge of our faculty. So we start the year every year where our faculty have to determine what 10% of their instructional practice or work with kids will they look at through research-informed ready-made research. And we do have, to answer your question, we have an online professional development tool called Folio, which is a portfolio for professionals. So I think that trend is happening. The two buckets that have generated the biggest debate in our faculty the last year is around homework, as you can imagine. I'm sure you're having debates here, and feedback. And they've had different impacts. Every one of our teachers grew up in a very driven homework culture. The more homework, the better teach. That means the teacher's better and the school's better. That was their mindset. Even though research is challenging that. So that's been hard. I mean, you ask teachers not to assign homework unless the assignment is actually valuable, worthwhile, and actually useful. It's hard to ask. But we'd rather have our kids sleep a little more. Conversely, we've been actually doing a lot of work around feedback, and certainly Dylan Williams' work has been really important to us here. We've been challenging our teachers to give less comments on their papers. You guys might all remember the paper you got back, the English mark, where it looked like the Battle of Marne happened on it, right? It's full of red, lines and things, and kids just don't know what to do with that. So we are actually saying to teachers, look, we're going to use research around feedback to see what if you marked less and more intentional. As adults, we actually would have been earlier as well. So it's interesting how the research has been received for good and bad. I'll just say this, we measure a lot, two things we measure for our faculty. Teacher efficacy, we use existing efficacy scales, we measure student efficacy, and we measure instructional variation. Those are, so we don't run to achievement, those are our three big buckets we look at initially when we expose our faculty to research.
I think there was a couple of things, and then I won't talk too much because I'm sure the teachers have got things to say that are better than I can say as a no longer serving teacher. But there were two bits I'd like to comment on. One thing is, just because you've got evidence doesn't mean practice changes. And I think there is the famous example in medicine, of course, of what is the reason why GPs began to stop smoking, because they were involved in the smoking research. A very, very important part of that part of the process. Involving teachers get to understand what the research was, buy into it, and actually want to change in response to that, because if they're just the consumers of something somebody else has produced. The second thing, which is a blatant appeal for funding in the room, it seems now obvious that with 140 teacher-led RCTs, there might be the opportunity for a teacher-led experimental research journal online, where teachers can actually critique and defend each other's research, possibly feeding into a meta-analysis where people study the same area. That is a fascinating citizen science approach. So anybody who's got some money, please contact me about that one, and I'll stop now and see what the teachers say.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that sometimes teachers reactive, it goes against what you believe. And I think, to echo the previous point, all teachers want to obviously get back to their pupils. So I think if there's any impact-driven evidence that shows that something could be a better way of doing it, because teachers I think would be very genuine and happy to go straight ahead with that. I know at our school, our whole appraisal system for teachers has been sort of overhauled over the past couple of years to be much more impact-driven. So it's not enough to just say, my children are making progress. It's really down to why and what are you doing, and really sort of know your own impact. And I think the research fits hand in hand with that.
Thank you. A really exciting and very inspirational set of tools. I wonder whether there's further reflection that comes from the lessons from randomized control trials on how they might be modified and even personalized. So I think there were, in fact, across all of your talks, there were suggestions of wanting to test the effect of best practice plus and intuitions that some surprising findings may be obtained. And that some interventions might work for some pupils and not others, and sometimes in counterintuitive ways. So I thought that was really interesting if you could test these hypotheses in the classroom. Perhaps something you could feed back to researchers like me is what your intuitions are for why some things were surprising but worked the way they worked. So if you go and test the mechanisms. And then the individual differences within the classroom, why they work for some and not other pupils. Because again, those are the things that we should be testing, finding out more about. So the idea of personalized medicine is definitely filtering into the design of randomized control trials from a biomedical point of view. I wonder how it's going to fit into educationally focused randomized control trials.
I think for me it would be interesting with my surprising results is to look at motivation because what motivates them really, because what the impact is confidence, motivation. I think possibly those are the processes that might have led to the differences that I've seen have. But yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to say other than those two things. I haven't really thought of anything else that might have been driving force behind those results. I do think it's probably to do with the way they felt, feelings that they experienced and what that led to, the motivation to revise and not to revise. And so, because they're at that age when, as adolescents, they are quite social and they're quite interested in socialising. So it's maybe how they compare themselves to other people and so and how that made them feel. I think that one area.
Yeah, I think we picked up on the motivation one is interesting because what I alluded to, which we didn't talk about, is actually the spelling aspect in school. What we've done with it is creating a whole series of rewards. So the idea that you will learn spelling and be tested, and once you've proved it, we've valued them. So the family children, they get a full badge. So they get a full badge to the rainbow, and then you move on to being a bronze, gold, silver speller. So we kind of link this motivation to the younger children to actually physically getting something. And I think we know, because we've surveyed the children, they like that, so they quite like this element of competition. It doesn't faze them that some of the children who are not strong spellers, they've got the chance to still get a badge, but they're not going to get all the badges like some of them. They're not fazed by that. And there is something in this motivation aspect, what makes children want to do well. And for younger children, that's quite interesting, so that's possibly something you can consider.
Great, I think we're going to have to stop there and call lunch, but we'll be back in here at 1:15 and have another round of applause for our wonderful panel. Thank you very much.